hopefully he can join us later on. Are we ready, Julie? Yeah. Okay. And we have the recorder going.
We do.
All right.
Yes, we do.
Great. Well, I'll call the meeting to order then. Obviously, roll call, we're missing Mr. Friedrich. First item is approval of the minutes of the January 5th regular meeting. I would entertain a motion. Motion by member Klein, second by member Thompson. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote.
Member Wachinski.
Yes.
Member Thompson.
Yes.
Member Klein.
Yes.
Member Lehman.
Yes.
Member Webb.
Yes.
Chairman Soldner.
Yes. And I will apologize for those that aren't on by video. You'll have to let me know if you have a question or a comment by just interrupting the conversation. Next item then we have is recommendment of bills and payment, or bills and transfers. I got a letter from the auditor saying that she approved the bills were appropriate. Does anyone have any questions? All right, well, I have one. On page 9 of 10, Cargo Incorporated, I assume that's our salt. And in the past, we always bought salt on contract. Is that still the case?
Yes, that's still the case through, that's actually a program through IDOT that they have. And so last year we were on contract and we were paying $116 a ton. And we had the option to renew it or redo the contract. And so we went ahead and redid the contract and ended up with $39.75 a ton for the salt for this year. And so then by March, they'll want us to renew it. And so I'll just keep that same price going for 2021-22 winter.
Okay, well, that's good news. All right, anybody have any other questions? All right, let's see, did I ask for a motion? I did, didn't I? I did not, okay. Someone want to make a motion to pay bills? Member Thompson, second, member Lehman. All right, any other discussion? If not, we're ready for a roll call vote.
Member Wachinski.
Yes.
Member Thompson.
Yes.
Member Klein.
Yes.
Member Lehman.
Yes.
Member Webb.
Yes.
Chairman Soldner.
Yes. Do we have any requests for appearance by members or citizens?
Chairman Soldner, we do not have any public comment this morning.
All right, very good. First item then is 5A1, request approval of a resolution for the January 26th project letting, and I would entertain a motion for that. Member Klein. Second by member Lehman. All right, Jerry, would you like to lead us on that?
Sure. So this is one of the first projects we're doing in regards to the roads for the Blooming Grove Wind Farm. So this goes from Route 165 up to County Highway 8 that was used. They actually had a laydown yard where they stored a lot of their components until they had their sites ready, and then used this road to haul them to the other spots of the wind farm that was mainly west of where they were located at. So this is basically a mill and fill resurfacing project on this. And then we're working on some other projects that we're going to go have a letting here at the end of February to do as well.
Okay. Any questions? I guess I have one. Again, I know that is a major road up there as far as for farm traffic and other construction traffic or whatever. Is it going to cause a big inconvenience for the repair or the upgrade of that?
No, this will be done probably by the middle of May, if they get started right away, and there won't be any road closures. There'll just be one lane closures, during the times that they're working.
Okay. All right. Any other comments or questions?
Chair Soldner,
Yes, Mr.
if
Webb?
I may, I just had a quick question. Under the background, it does say Grove Wind Farm and Will Mill. Is that a typo or is that the technical term for it? Just wanted to double check.
Yeah, it's probably not worded the best. It should say, it's basically, it's gonna be a mill and fill, what we call it. It's a mill mill off the existing road and then resurface it. So yeah, the verbiage probably isn't quite there.
That's all right. Thank you for the context.
All right. Anyone else? Okay, if not, we're ready for a roll call vote.
Member Wojcinski,
Yes.
Member Thompson,
Yes.
Member Klein,
Yes.
did I miss it? Member Klein?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Member Lehman,
Yes.
Member Webb,
Yes.
Chairman Solner.
Yes.
Oh,
Glad to
and
see
I
you,
see
Mr.
Member
Frederick.
has joined us.
All right. Next item then is 5A2, request approval of a resolution for the January 26th equipment letting. And I would entertain a motion for that. Member Lehman, second. Member Thompson. All right, Jerry, you want to lead us through this?
Sure. So this is the beds of our tandem trucks that we purchased back here so we had the letting in December, and then so we knew what kind of trucks we want. So then we spec out the beds and all the hydraulics that go with that. And then once we get that done, then our welding shop puts a lot of the hitches and our wings and everything on those trucks. So this Koenig was the only bidder on this, unfortunately, but they've done a lot of our work in the past 10 years or so. So put the new beds on the trucks.
So how far out do you reach when you send the bids? I mean, is it to the point where we need to look at someone in the, St. Louis area, Chicago area, even out of state, or do you feel like we're getting a decent bid the way it is now?
We're getting decent bids. I mean, they probably go up 2 to 3%, each year. And, that's kind of varies on what steel prices are doing and things like that. I think years ago they did open it up, and I don't know if we had real good luck at going all the way up to Joliet or St. Louis, but we have certainly discussed that moving forward. We just we've got a real good relationship with Koenig, and so they kind of know what we need and go that route. But we could look at going in other places.
I do know back before we used to use Wismiller and Evans, and then when Joe Wismiller passed away, that wasn't an option. I would think they probably helped keep Koenig a little more honest as far as that goes. But okay. Any other questions? Member Thompson?
Yeah, these are stainless steel. The quote is stainless steel.
Yes,
Right.
they are stainless steel.
That's just for corrosion for their salt, I assume, right?
Yes.
Is that something you've been doing for quite some time, or is that something new?
Yeah, I want to say the last 8 years or so, where they used to be all steel beforehand, and then they rust out and we got problems. So then we went with all stainless steel.
Do you have any, do they stay around? Obviously the stainless won't corrode. Does it, reuse them, or do they go with the whole truck?
They usually go, when we trade the trucks in, they go with the whole truck. We do all the wings, the plows, spreaders, and everything all as one truck, and seem to get a better trade-in value for that. I want to say that we have done the bed transfers probably about 8 or 10 years ago, and they just found out it was more cost benefit to just trade everything out with the tandems.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Anyone else? Okay, Julie, I guess we're ready to vote then, please.
Member Wojcinski,
Yes.
Member Thompson,
Yes.
Member Klein,
Yes.
Member Lehman,
Yes.
Member Webb,
Yes.
Member Friedrich,
Yes.
Chairman Soldner.
Yes. Next item is 5A3, request approval of motor fuel tax resolution, Horse Farm Road, County Highway 21, section 19-00058-07-WR. And I would entertain a motion. Member Friedrich, second member Klein. All right, Jerry?
So this is the kind of project that's been on our radar for quite a few years. There's fairly high amount of traffic on this road, and the truck traffic is over, the semi traffic's over 100 trucks a day. And so I thought this would be a good candidate to upgrade it down to the DeWitt County line. There's a lot of grain hauling that, from Leroy down to the ADM plant. And so we started looking into this a little bit and thought that we need to go this route to where, so we put an RFP out to hire an engineering company to kind of help us on this work, and so we got those submitted back to us on Friday, and we reviewed those, and so next month we'll bring a engineering agreement with the chosen firm at that time to continue that. So this resolution will pay for that engineering and for any other right-of-way work that needs to be done, or purchasing the right-of-way on that. So this is going to be a full reconstruction of the road, and it's a 2-mile long project.
All right. Any questions? Member Frederick?
Yeah, Jerry, kudos to you on looking at that project. That was something that was needing to be done for a while, and good luck with that and getting the washboarding out, or I call it that. Lots of little dips and yeah, a lot of traffic. I don't use it that much, but I know it's used a lot. So glad to see that's on the go table. Thank you.
Yeah, we kind of noticed that we ran into a little bit more of a maintenance issue down there too, some soft spots here and there that we've had to repair. So thought this would be just a good, to start the reconstruction process on it.
Anyone else? I do know that it's also heavily used in the summertime for Clinton Lake. So people dragging boats up and down that road will appreciate it. I was curious if you talked to DeWitt County, or I'm not sure what the condition of their road is there at the county line. Is that something we need to discuss with them to see if they could consider an improvement if it needs it?
Yeah, I had a conversation with him it's probably a couple of years ago when we were kind of looking at some additional type of funding, and thought maybe that that we could, kind of do a joint project together. I believe he had done something on that road in the last 5 years, and so he didn't have any plans in the immediate future to do that. But things have changed, and maybe his revenues increased, so I might reach out to him again and just let him know what we're thinking, and that way he can plan accordingly.
Will there be a big difference in the road width at that spot? In other words, will it narrow down quite a bit, do you believe?
No, I don't believe so. I don't think that'll be enough to make a significant difference. The shoulders probably, the shoulder width will probably, you'll notice that, and for farm implements and that. But I don't think anything with the actual just travel way of the road will be any different.
Okay, all right. Any other comments or questions? Ready to vote? All right, Julie, go ahead, thank you.
Member Wojcinski,
Yes.
Member Thompson,
Yes.
Member Klein,
Yes.
Member Lehman,
Yes.
Member Webb,
Yes.
Member Friedrich,
Yes.
Chairman Solomon.
Yes. Next item is 5A4, request approval of a resolution for Memorial Road designation. And I would like to entertain a motion for that. Member Klein, second member Friedrich. All right, Jerry?
So we thought this was going to be a good way to honor our one of our highway department employees that passed away on the job back in 2019, and thought had some requests from some other employers at the highway department, and thought this would be good for the highway department in general and for his family to remember his service to the highway department and the community.
All right, any discussion or questions? Member Friedrich?
Yeah, that's another super good idea, Jerry. Thanks for doing that. No question about that in my mind. Thanks again.
And you mentioned to me, I believe, that when Mr. Bundy was driving the snowplow, that he traveled that road quite a bit. So it's appropriate then, I think, that you selected that piece of property.
Yeah, he was, he did our night shift for 15 years or so, and so always had Tuan Barnes in good shape for the morning commute.
Okay. Any other discussion? All right, seeing none, we're ready to vote then.
Member Wachinski,
Yes.
Member Thompson,
Yes.
Member Klein,
Yes.
Member Lehman,
Yes.
Member Webb,
Yes.
Member Friedrich,
Yes.
Chairman Solomon.
Yes. Our last action item is 5A5, request approval of emergency appropriation ordinance, McLean County Highway Fund 0120, and I would entertain a motion for that. Member Thompson, second. Member Klein. All right, Jerry?
So this budget amendment will allow additional revenue and expenditures out of our construction line items to get reimbursed from the Blooming Grove wind farm work that was approved in item 1 there for the project. We wasn't exactly sure of the scope and the timelines of some of these projects and everything, so this was not included in our original budget when that was passed last year. So this amendment allows us to have that authority to spend the money on the revenue and expenditure side. And so there'll be a couple other projects, like I said, here in the end of February, that'll come to the committee in March. And so this will the 2.65 million that is coming into the revenue side on the construction is the total of what we're expecting here in 21 from Blooming Grove Wind Farm, based on the projects and the scope and estimates we have currently set forth.
All right, any questions? Discussion? Okay, seeing none, we're ready.
Member Wachinski,
Yes.
Member Thompson,
Yes.
Member Klein,
Yes.
Member Lehman,
Yes.
Member Webb,
Yes.
Member Friedrich,
Yes.
Chairman Solomon.
Yes. Next agenda item is 5B1, report on positions recently filed.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
the positions recently filled.
I'm so sorry. I was dealing with another matter and I apologize to the membership. I present our report on positions filled, and did you have questions?
Does anyone have a question? It appears not.
Thank you very much.
All right. Next item is 5B2 and a motor fuel tax presentation. I know we were emailed, I believe, a PowerPoint, and we also had a couple documents. Jerry, you want to go ahead and start with that?
Sure. So I emailed you the presentation, and it was kind of just an overview of the motor fuel tax fund that we have, and I was going to start out with going through some of the other. So the highway department has 4 funds, and I was going to briefly touch on the other 3, just kind of get an idea, some background, and then we'll talk more about the actual motor fuel tax, kind of give you a history of it, and then how it applies to the highway department on that. So the first fund that I was going to talk about was our highway fund, and this is basically our main operating fund, and this revenue mainly comes from the property tax, and any other revenue that we receive is from commodities that we sell to the townships, which includes like pipe and signs, posts or salt that we stockpile. We do get reimbursed from the motor fuel tax fund for some of our equipment rental for snow plowing and mowing and things like that. And then some of our other revenue comes from our permit fees. For our overweight, we have a system called Ox Card, and then we have entrance permit and work permit fees that we charge for. So that's kind of the first fund. The second fund is the bridge fund, and this is used for county bridge and culverts and maintenance projects. And then we do a lot of work with the townships, and so we do 50% joint culverts, as well as township bridge projects where that's a state funded source, and that's 80% comes from the state, and 10% from the county, and 10% from the township bridge, or from the township. And then this also comes from the property tax, and then so the reimbursement comes from like a lot of townships once we do that work on the joint culvert side. Then the third fund is the matching fund, and this fund can only be used to basically to match any federal funds or motor fuel tax funds. And so the majority of this fund gets expended on construction, the work that we do, but we can do it on engineering or right of way. But most of the time throughout the year, it just gets done on construction, and then we use the MFT to do different types of engineering expenses. So for the motor fuel tax, so we, like I said, we use it a lot for our maintenance, engineering, and construction. And so our revenue comes from the monthly MFT allotments, and then there's another program called the County Consolidated. And I'll go into talk about these a little bit more as we go along here. So the motor fuel tax basically kind of comes in two ways. It's mainly for the tax that's paid at the pump, and then as well as the motor vehicle registration that's paid to the Secretary of State. And so that all kind of goes into what I want to call the MFT pot in a sense, and then it kind of gets divvied up from there. So the kind of a little bit of history here of how this all came about. Started out as a user fee for the road. So back in 1929, it was 3 cents per gallon as user fees came about, and then it kind of increased until 7.5% there in 1969, and it remained that way until 1983. And one thing to notice down there is the how the before prior to 1983 how the split was. So 65% of that motor fuel tax went to the locals, which includes the all the counties, the townships, and the municipalities, and then 35% went to the state. So as we move along here, then, so in 1982 and 1983, the legislation was passed for the 80,000 pound interstate system and to make all state highways 80,000 pounds. And so there was, and so this is what we typically design to on the local side today is to these 80,000 pound marks. And then, so then they, in 1983, the motor fuel tax was increased to 11%, and it kind of went up to 13% in 1985. And then, so that new revenue, then you can see that the split was 30% local, 70% state. So they started taking, more money to the state side to upgrade all these roads to 80,000 pounds versus, giving it to the locals to do the same thing. And so then they also at this time passed a 2.5% diesel differential, which all went to the state. So then here in 1989, it was increased again to 16 cents, and then in 1990 was to 19 cents. And so then and the way this broke out was where it ended up being 41% to the locals and 58% to the state. And this is where they added the county consolidated and needy township programs to help offset some of this revenue gap that the locals weren't getting. And so basically those are what they kind of call IDOT discretionary funds that they're not related to any type of statute. So they can basically do away with those funds at any time. And they've, in the past 4 or 5 years, they've cut those, or cut them for a little bit, and they've reinstated them. And so that's where, and so for us at this time, it ends up being about a month's worth of allotment extra that we get out of the county consolidated, and kind of the same way with the needy townships. So then things start getting more kind of convoluted here. In 1999, the Illinois First capital bill was passed. So there was not an increase in the motor fuel tax, but the motor vehicle registrations increased. Now, so all of the motor vehicle fees at this time all go to the state for their transportation funding, and so none of that went to the locals. So they still kept the county consolidated programs, and whereas so now we have 54% going to locals and 45% going to the state. So from 1990 to 2019, the motor fuel tax remained 19% through that whole time, and so there was never any increases to the locals at that time. So in 2019, that all kind of changed, where the motor fuel tax was increased to 38 cents. And so what they did then is they created a whole new fund, and they called it the Transportation Renewal Fund. And so all that new revenue went into this renewal fund, and then it was distributed by the MFT formula. And this was also tied to the Consumer Price Index, which the original MFT distribution was not. And so, and I'll explain how this distribution here in a second. But also in 2019, there was a capital bill that was passed that on the Rebuild Illinois funds, where basically they had to sell bonds, Series A bonds, to release these funds, and so they give out $250 million twice a year to the local agencies and that. So we end up with about 2 million per year in 2021, 23. And so then we have to, obligate and have all these funds spent by 25. And so that's what allows us to do like the Horse Farm Road and some of these other roads that we have planned for reconstruction projects, is because of this capital bill. So going to the MFT distribution. So this is one of the handouts that I sent you that has the flow chart. And so this kind of goes into the 2.5% tax on the diesel fuel that goes in the construction fund. And then all these other, what we kind of call administrative programs or administrative fees that are taken off the top. To some of them are to administer the MFT fund, and then some of them are just to add into different funding accounts. Like the $3.5 million that goes into the grade cross protection fund is for any railroad improvement upgrades that need to be done on the local and state system as we go along here. So as I mentioned earlier, the way the split out is 45% to the state and then 54% to the locals. So then it breaks down even further from that, where 49% of the 54% goes to municipalities. And that's based on the population of each of those municipalities compared to the total population of the municipalities together. And then all the counties that have over a population of 1 million get 16.7%. And then we fall into the 18.27%. And this is actually based on the motor vehicle license fees in our county that, and then that's appropriated throughout the whole state. So that's how they come up with our fees. And I believe that they look and they modify that every April to see how many vehicle fees that we have each year in the county. And then the 16% goes to the townships, and those are allocated by their road mileage versus the road mileage to the rest of the state. And so on that printout kind of shows everything going into the motor fuel tax fund. Now, one thing I want to point out here is that the diesel fuel differential also when the motor fuel tax was increased, that went up 5%. So that all flows into the motor fuel tax fund, and then all these fees come off of there, and then we get to the actual fund balance, and then that's all distributed out between state and locals, and then between all the municipalities and counties and townships there on the right side. So it kind of just gives you a flow chart of how that's expended. And then on the transportation renewal fund, so this was a new fund that was created. So it wasn't to where our motor fuel tax allotments just doubled. They broke it out to where they, 48% is going to the state construction account, 20% is going to the high-speed rail and transit, and 32% is going to the local agencies. And so then the local agency, that 32% is the same as the 54% from the original MFT, and to where that in McLean County, we're getting 18.27%. As you can see on this flow chart. It's a little easier to read because there's not as much happening here, but kind of all flows into that renewal fund. And this is where it's tied to the consumer price index. So if the consumer price index goes higher, then the MFT in this fund is going to go higher. And so then that's the distribution there on this fund. Any questions so far?
I have one, Jerry. You mentioned the vehicle fee goes towards the motor fuel tax. Is that just title and registration, or is that also like driver's license fees?
I believe that's just titles and registrations.
Okay. And because of the COVID, are they still doing that, or is that something that's put a halt? In other words, if you buy a new vehicle, do you do a title or registration now?
Yes, they still do. I think there was a delay there for a while on them, but they're still required to do them, or you can do them online.
Okay, so there won't be a big loss in revenue from that.
No, and the only thing I wasn't sure about is when I mentioned about when they redid those in April, if that was accounted for as far as if they noticed a loss from 2020 back. They're probably always a year behind, so I don't know if they noticed that at that time, or if they lumped the whole year in together.
Okay. All right.
So these next couple slides are just kind of just to kind of give you an idea what how this all so this is this kind of shows where the traffic on IDOT roads and versus local roads is, and where the MFT distribution fees where they went to at this time. So basically most of the money that was coming, we were getting back for the amount of roads that we had in 1983. But as you go in 2016, when this graph was last updated, you can see that there's a 23% gap that's chunk taken out of there. And that's, what that went to IDOT for all those administrative programs that they have, and some of the other funding sources that's part of that, I guess, taken off the top before it goes into the motor fuel tax and split between the state and the local agencies. So I just kind of wanted to give you a little picture of that there. So moving forward, so this is kind of history of the motor fuel tax allotments. And so you can see back in 2005 when we were that was our highest that we had, and these were average monthly allotments throughout the year. So we were looking at 235,000 a month there. And then you can see in 2012 where it was our lowest at 178,000, and then it kind of stayed steady for there. And then down here in 2019, the first number is the regular motor fuel tax distribution of 189,000. And so that went up until September, and then we ended up getting the transportation renewal funds with that. So the 320,000 adds both of those together. And then you can see we took a little bit of a hit because of the COVID here in 2020, where we had about 293,000 was our average monthly allotment for those months. And then just to kind of see the other side of that, this is kind of our an average of our oil prices that we have. And so you can see back from 2007 to 2011, when our revenues weren't there, we did a lot less work as far as when our amount of gallons that we were putting down on the oil and chip side. And, over the years, we slowly increased that. And, but you can kind of see where oil's taken a pretty big jump from, 2008 to 2009. And then it looks like, we're seeing another jump now from 2019, 2020. And so I'm not sure what the future is going to hold there. So, but that's just kind of an idea of where we spend some of this money. So this is this oil and chip work is a lot of our maintenance work that we do. Some of the other maintenance items that come out of this is our salt and signs and posts. And so those are the types of the commodities that we buy. And then, as I mentioned earlier, we do a lot of engineering with this, or purchase a right of way with the motor fuel tax fund. And so there's a lot of different things. We have to do the resolutions like we passed today. That's got to be kind of the first thing done. And then there's all different reports we have to do with IDOT to spend the money, and some environmental work and things like that on that type of thing. So then some other, just kind of wanted to give it a brief overview of some other funding sources that we'll probably be talking about, in the next years to come. So one other source that we use regularly is the federal surface transportation. And there's two different types of this. There's a rural component and an urban component. So on the rural side, we get about $1 million that comes to McLean County. And then, so we spend that on a lot of resurfacing projects. To do that, we're going to have one here later this summer. And then there's what we call the urban allotments that come to the MPO. And so those, the town and the city are eligible for those. And so we kind of work together to, come up with certain projects that need to be done. Bloomington's looking at Hamilton Road. We're looking at doing White Oak Road, and the town of Normal's looking to do a project on College Avenue to tie in with Rivian and that. So kind of just work together to use that type of money. Then there's the federal bridge replacement program. We actually did a bridge with this funding source last year, and so we get about 200,000 per year on it. So it takes a few years to build this money up to do a decent project. But we can use this money on township or county projects. And then our main township fund that we use for the township bridges is the township bridge program. We get about 320,000 a year. We try to do one township bridge a year. Some years we may take a year off just to build up enough money. But this was, like I mentioned earlier, this is an 80-10-10 split. And then a couple other related ones here. We have the truck access route program, the TARP program we call it. We use that quite a bit. We actually have 2 applications into IDOT right now for different roads that we're going to be doing in 22. And then there's the highway safety improvement program where we've received funds for safety shoulders that we did on Tawanda East, and we're doing on Linden Street this year. And then there's also the Illinois Transportation Enhancement Program where we're doing bike trail projects. And we just completed a project on the Route 66 trail last year, and we have a project to do some more additional work going north to Lexington. We have an application there to do some phase 1 work. So this is just kind of some of the other funding sources that we have available to us. And I'll entertain any questions. This is a link to the website on the IDOT's website, and it has some pamphlets that show the MFT distribution for counties and townships. It has all the allotments throughout the years, the Rebuild Illinois distributions, and so it just has a lot of information that may be beneficial for you to look at. I know that's kind of a quick and dirty thing here on the motor fuel tax and some of the funding, but I'll happy to answer any questions.
Does anybody have any questions? I might mention also, I know some of the older, more experienced board members know this. We also maintain the township's motor fuel tax money, and so that's another part of our responsibility.
Yes, we have to administer their funds, and we send estimates into the state to authorize the amount of money they want to spend, and then make sure it's spent accordingly, because there are certain conditions and certain obligations they have to follow to spend that MFT money.
All right. Any other questions? All right. Thank you, Jerry. Now, according to our agenda, we're down to the other. Does anybody have any other business or issues or questions? All right. How about administration? Do we have anything?
We do not, Chairman Soldner.
All right. Well, with that, unless we have anything else, I say we are adjourned. Thank you very much.